So no swearing.
No swearing. You are you are being recorded, and who knows who may listen. So, right. So I'm sharing my screen, so those of you who are actually on the call should be able to see. If you're not, then I just sent you the link to the Padlet, so you should be able to kind of see everything that gets written on that screen anyway, and you can add to it if you like. Joe. Okay, so there are just couple of things to go through, so hopefully it won't take too long. So the first one was just to show you and go through the moderation and standardization procedure, which Paul wants put in place ASAP, and this is just basically adding in one stage on what we already do in centres, and the reason for it is it's for quality assurance staff, I think, for them to demonstrate that we are, or for us to demonstrate that we have got a robust internal as well as external procedure. So basically, what I will email through to people. The first couple of stages are just what we do, how we write the assessments. Then we've got the delivery bit, and then we've got the online standardisation that we will do, which you'll notice Paul has added in mandatory on here, so that they are, and they're recorded anyway. So we do the standardisation, we all agree, as we did, looking at samples, and then those are shared in Centre, which is what we're probably already doing. Then the marking stage with all fails and a random sample of each tutor's scripts double marked, which is probably what we all do anyway. Then
May I actually stop you here first,
yes.
For a second? Because we went through the whole changes in moderation procedures here in the centre, and the document that we were that was communicated to us from Paul was actually that we should not be doing double marking anymore. That it should be
that's what we found out as well.
Yeah.
Well, this was last week. This is very strange, because I sent this through to him and he added comments and he didn't say anything about double marking, although he did have a slightly unusual thing of saying double marking means all scripts, which it doesn't have to. It means it's being marked twice, doesn't it?
We were told not to double mark anything, just to moderate 20% possible names and fails. That's what we got told like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, so would we.
Okay, so let me make a note too.
So it's more of a terminology thing.
So yeah, but you're being told not to double mark your fails in Centre.
No, we're taught to moderate. Basically, you read it again to check whether the marking descriptors are applied fairly and consistently.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly that.
But if we thought that they weren't, then we had to remark the whole cohort that was marked by that person.
Yeah. So is it this wording then here that needs to change from scripts are double marked? We say moderated.
Yeah, I think that we were told we couldn't use the word double marking.
Well, that's just going to cause confusion, isn't it? Because that's what we've always called it. You're marking it. Well, yeah, I suppose it's hopefully if it's clear what our processes are then and what is expected, then that might make it easier for tutors, I suppose, who feel like they've got to read the whole thing and mark it as if they're marking it for the first time. So you're simply looking to see whether you agree on the marks. Okay, that's fair enough. So I've changed that to moderated. So then we put the highest, lowest, median and mean on there, on the spreadsheet, so we can check for consistency. And then the new stage is here. Sorry, somebody's on the phone and there's loads of background noise coming through that's being picked up and recorded. So if you could, I think you can mute if you're on there. Okay, so then we've got the cross-centre moderation, and this is the new bit. So what I thought was the most logical and easiest way to do it is that we will have a day, like when we have Heads of English meeting, where we will all come together and we will select a sample of each other's scripts, and Paul's very keen that we don't ask for centres to send a sample of their highest, lowest or whatever, because his argument is that then a centre might choose scripts that they are confident of the marks rather than a random sample. So we will randomly select a selection of scripts, and then we will look at each other's. So it's just basically what we're doing in centre, but randomly and all together.
I don't understand how you can do that.
No,
You send the scripts.
No, so
we're marking online completely. We don't
no. We're going to have to come together and do it in person, because I think it will be a logistical nightmare if say Royal Holloway sends their results to Kingston, and then Kingston says, I want to see candidate 1527 and candidate 1832 and whatever, which is what he's selecting, but suggesting that then you'd have to send those. You know, it would be easier if we just brought the papers together, and then whoever is paired up or in a group says, I want to see these 5, and then you have a look at them. You look at a random sample, so that you know whether you're looking at something that has been given a high mark, but the centre isn't able to say, here is my sample of high marks, because they obviously know the student and they will know who is definitely going to be worthy of a high mark, rather than somebody else randomly selecting.
If you don't mind me asking, just I'm probably completely dense here. So, because we have completely eliminated paper submissions, so we're not doing paper submissions at all. Everything is submitted on Moodle.
Yeah.
So it would basically mean having our laptops with us and just logging in with my login and then giving it, let's say, to whoever comes from Kingston, and they do. Okay.
Yeah, we'll work out the kind of easiest way to do it. The key thing is, I mean, sorry?
Does it have to be a head that goes to this, or can we select teachers based on our CPD?
No, it could be. It doesn't have to be a head, I don't think. It says Paul was suggesting that we have a person who is the moderator or the representative moderator from each centre. So it doesn't have to be a head of English. It could be someone else, and we could rotate, because the suggestion was that we send things to other centres, to each other. And my query was, well, that's going to be time consuming, and people are going to have to try and fit it in around, rather than us saying this is what we're coming together to do today, and then we've done it. So we have to kind of include this process so that we can make sure we've got a random selection, and it's not just self, whatever. Sorry, I think, Mike, did you have a question?
Yeah, who's going to pair the centres?
We're not. I don't think we're going to be we'll just all come together, and then we'll just, when we're there, say, can you bring your sheet of results, and then I'll look at, say, yours, Mike, and I'll say, okay, can I see this student, and this student, and I select who I want to see. Goes across, so I will look and say, okay, these 2 seem to be quite high, can I see them, can I say this low, and so we get a random one. I mean, he did originally say he thought it was a good idea to have, I think it was 10% of all scripts, but I was like, well, that's 100 scripts from Sussex. And so who's going to look at that? And my follow-up query was, what happens if we disagree? Because if you're going to say they all have to be remarked, then is it likely that someone's going to say, well, I completely disagree with all your marking? Knowing what but we'd have to kind of, because the argument is you can't moderate marks based solely on a sample. So if you disagreed with all of the marks that you looked at, then there would be a case to say all of your scripts need to be re-looked at. But if only 3 of the 10 that you looked at you disagreed within a margin, then we would just say it's within the normal, So I'd imagine that's what's going to happen, unless, there's a centre that's consistently marking, 10-15% out, which is it's not likely, to be honest. So, but that's worst case scenario. But it's a measure that we have to have in place in case, somebody's routinely doing their standardisation with their tutors and setting the standard, out of kilter with everyone else.
Sorry.
Go on.
Okay, what would be the time scale for this? Because obviously we do need to report we report the results to students. And I think in our handbook it is, our student handbook, it says 10 working days, which obviously makes our marking turnarounds really short.
We don't have to do it for I'm assuming, you know, because of the different times when these things are delivered, we don't have to all do it kind of after we've had submission of a particular thing. So we could just take the paper 2 exams and say we want to just look at the writing, the marks that have been awarded for the writing, and we'll do it based on that. And then I think, you know, we're fairly safe to assume that if everyone's happy with how those are being marked, then the same marking scheme is applied to your coursework too. So there's not going to be time between marking coursework 2, doing this, getting the marks to boards and stuff. So once we've done another exam, as long as we've got a sample of students writing, essentially is what we're looking at, and we can, you know, maybe look at some videos of speaking if we have time. But we can do it from any sample. It doesn't have to be for every single assessment, I am assuming, because that's what impossible.
If there was a difference,
yeah.
Bear in mind that centres have exams at different times. How can you retrospectively go back and change them if you've already been through the MAB or the PAB?
Well, so long as it's before the end of the student's programme, then presumably it will be you'll be able to do it because you haven't had that
result.
And not to mention the fact that in terms of resets, again, in our centre, they can do a reset or resubmit something 2 weeks after they get the results. So if that would be additionally delayed because of the cross-centre moderation, that would probably cause a lot of problems.
Well, then, I mean, I would suggest
when
we
do you confirm results, Magda?
Sorry?
When do you actually confirm results to students rather than provisional? Because you've got to have a MAB first.
No, we do, yes. So it is at the end of the term, but obviously as students later on do need to, before MAB and PAB, we do before the PAB and after the MAB, we do informally tell the students who might want to consider resets that they need to book their flights. I know, but simply because of the fact that they need to book their flights and accommodation. I'm just a bit concerned there. In case there is a big discrepancy and we actually need to remark and.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you would need to remark the batch of scripts that a sample had been taken from, and then, I mean, the thing it says where quality of marking is judged inappropriate, then there's developmental opportunities. This is what Paul has added. It's when the grading is suspect, so it looks like it is out by, and we'd have to determine what we're going to categorize, what bit of leeway we're allowing, if we're allowing 10% difference or something, which is the equivalent of half an IELTS band. I think we're going to have to be looking at things that are greater than that, because there will be discrepancy between, half an IELTS band for writing, it's equivalency, obviously. So I don't, it's unlikely that anyone would have to remark. It's more a case that we would say, it looks like your teachers are marking on the, on the hard side or on the easy side. So when you next do a standardisation, could you bring this up, and could you, go through the samples? It looks like that would be the process, rather than you have to remark everything, every time. It's just that we have, I think it was flagged up last time that there were certain centres delivering the same exams but getting quite different results from the majority. But we will see that anyway, before even any of this process. We'll see that on the Google Doc with everybody's spreadsheet of results for the highest, median, and highest, lowest, median, and mean. So we'll see straight away, if it looks like somebody's mark, from the coursework 1, that all their marks look like they're 15-20% lower than everybody else's, then we can kind of flag that up now rather than it's hopefully not going to be done retrospectively. So. So then obviously then you have your samples which go to the external examiner who just reviews and adjudicates on the marking. So again, does moderation, isn't remarking or double marking. So that's it basically. So I'll send that round to people, and that's kind of what we need to kind of say is in place, so that when we're inspected, we can present them with, this is our process, and we're all kind of consistent, basically. I think that's the aim. So I will send that round, and I would suggest that we organise the standardisation meeting fairly soon, I guess, if people have people all got a sample of student marks. When will you have some marks from students?
Depends which paper you want to do.
Well, any paper. I mean, we just need a sample of your marking for writing. So it could be
no, for writing. The writing exam's not till, I can't remember, March sometime.
Have you not done any mocks? I mean, you should have done mocks or end of term.
I thought the point was for it to be summative.
No, if we're looking at what you could bring if you don't have anything summative to do, then no, because I mean we're essentially adjudicating on each other's quality of marking, and that should be consistent. You don't have tutors marking differently if it's a practice, or if it's if it's a summative. They're using the same marking criteria, so it should be a reflection on what the standard of marking is. So yeah, I mean I don't know that we could use the synthesized summary because it's a bit short, but any kind of mock writing, or the end of, if you had an end of term paper the paper one exam.
We can bring marks basically.
Yeah, I think so, because tutors have marked them and given a mark, haven't they? So that's it's still valid.
So will this be a physical face-to-face meeting, or is it?
Yeah, I think so, because it just will make it much easier to be able to get together, swap papers, and it's done, rather than trying to chase each other up, or who hasn't, we'll just get it all done, and it means we'll have to be, there'll be time allocated, rather than this just becoming another thing that you have to do sitting on your desk. So I'll send out a doodle poll so you can put when you're available and when would be good, and so we'll do that for a couple of weeks. So the next quick thing to look at is I have sent you the proposed amendments to speaking. I've put it on the seminar because we've done that. Basically, the kind of amendment really is if you look at the fluency and pronunciation bands, I've just kind of made each CFR level basically one band, because the difference between the 40 to 49% and the 50 to 59% was so different that it just didn't seem to be much value in having that level of differentiation, especially on pronunciation, where the differences either can generally be understood, or pronunciation causes difficulty. It's one or the other. So that's kind of what the amendment is basically, and I've just, like with the with the writing, just highlighted what the differences are in the descriptors. Any comments on that? I attached it to the meeting invitation, but I can send it out to you.
Oh yeah, I've got it. No, I've got it. Sorry.
You got it. So it's just lengthening those bands, like we were saying, because it's especially for PRON. You can either understand it, or there are bits that you're struggling with. So I just wanted to try and simplify it, because I thought the difference between the descriptors was was negligible.
Oh, yeah. That's much easier.
Yeah, and if you do the CEF train as well, I've kind of put together. I'll do a task sheet so that you can look at the samples, and obviously there are only descriptors for C1, B2 plus, B2. So trying to split that lower end of B2, it's just I couldn't really do it, and so it's just trying to make that a bit easier. So if you wouldn't mind having a look at that, and then let me know if you have any comments or any suggested changes in language. I think kind of Joe, I've amended it because Joe noticed between the 30 and the 40 it was very similar, so one now is slightly clearer. And I've taken out one of the, or kind of joined the descriptors for the contribution and interaction. So the point 1 is basically how they participate, and the point 2 is what they say and how they support it, rather than having a third subsection, which there didn't seem much point trying to differentiate those 2 bits. So, but it's the same information, just slightly simplified.
Can I just ask, are we
Yes.
supposed to be applying, the same technique that we use to the written descriptors? So like 16, 16.75 and 17.5?
Yes. Yeah, so that will mean that this C1 band will go between 14 to 17.5. So there's a bit more of, but people, if they're kind of, I would imagine most people will put like 15 or 15.5 if they're kind of in the middle of that band kind of thing. So there'll be slightly more marks available because it's a bigger band now for fluency and cron, but should be okay. They're either top end of it or bottom end of it, but we could maybe put some further guidelines. But yes, with the seminar speaking, that when we did that and then we calculated the marks, I did it that way. So it's the same as the writing. So if they meet all of the criteria, they get the top mark. If they meet 1, they get the bottom mark. And then if they're kind of mixed, then they get the middle mark. But there's no kind of 84% or 87%. There's just 3 marks. So maybe we should do the same for these 2 broader bands.
Sorry. Yeah. Hi, it's Diana here, by the way.
Oh, hello, Diane.
Just a question. Last time you showed the seminar marking sheet where people could actually use it for groups. So this is an amendment to the criteria. But that will be transferred onto the actual mark sheet that teachers will use, so it'll have the same information.
Yes, I've done that already. Okay. So I've got a proposed version. So if we tweak this, then I'll tweak those as well. Okay. I mean, they're only kind of minor tweaks. It's just trying to
it's just so that they to make sure they correspond.
Yes, I've done that already. So if we have a look at that and let me know if there's anything that you think's unclear or seems like the lower band is actually more challenging, then we can have a look at that. The other thing which I discussed with Paul last week, and apparently to change it, we need to put through a thing to go to a cake, or one of the cakes anyway. What I was suggesting from what our experience at Sussex, which I'd be interested to know if it's the same in other centres, where we had the exam 4 and then the exam, well actually this came up because it was the end of semester assessments, which were non-contributory, but at Sussex they were using it to determine whether a student could progress, which they've now done away with because they've said you can't decide.
Because they weren't being actually used.
Yeah, it's not contributory.
But it should have been contributory from semester 1 to semester 2, but in practice it wasn't happening, so there was no point in keeping it.
Yeah, well, but for exam 4 currently, the writing is not contributory. It's a 0% or formative thing. So what I was suggesting to Paul is that we actually amend it slightly so that we're saying for exam 4 and exam 6, we'll take the highest of the marks. So in effect, it might be contributory if they don't improve or they have a bad day in exam 6. Because we're assuming that they'll do better in exam 6 because it's towards the end. But if they don't, then it doesn't trigger them having to do a resit if they've already done well, because
proven an ability in an earlier age.
Exactly, yeah, because otherwise we're basically being the IELTS, aren't we, and saying, yeah, but you didn't do it on this day. And we're like, well, that's not what we're trying to do. We're trying to test them in different modes and over a period of time to see what they are capable of, not capable on a particular day. So that was just wanted to see whether people agreed with that or if they thought we should. So make it so highest of the 2. Yeah. So they both count, and then whichever we'll use. Okay, so it's effectively.
Theoretically, the second one should be better in as much as they're much more learning objectives and, you know, much more teaching on those skills in the second semester as well. So the theory should be that they get a better score in the second one, but it would be more fair if they, if either can be used.
Yeah, and I mean, I suppose because they're based on the reading topics that they've got, they just might, you know, they just might actually be better prepared for writing in an earlier one, that, you know, they might just not engage with the second, either of the second texts. So, so okay, so I will try, I'll write that with the justification, see if we can just make that as a minor change or whatever it is that we need to call it.
That means that that one would have to go out as a proper exam. The one that counts as 0, it would still have to go out as a proper exam and not be done as an in-class assignment.
Well, it can't be anyway, because it's using the externally approved exam, so it can't be done outside of exam conditions.
And the reading is a summative assessment, isn't it?
Yeah. So the reading is anyway, so, and that's 25%, I think, the reading, isn't it, of their overall, so it would be in exam conditions. That was it, really. Any other business, if anyone had any questions or queries, and this little link is just something that I found because my friend is doing the animation for it, but it's there's a series of videos that are like between 5 and 6 minutes, and there's hundreds and hundreds of them, and they're all on different kind of philosophical or psychology or sociology and all different topics. And it's like those what is it, the RSA, you know, those animated videos sort of thing, but there's loads and loads of different topics, and they're all 5-6 minutes, very clearly delivered by Alan what's his face, I want to say Bottom. Bottom. They're all done by him. And he's got some, watch the one on Taylor Swift's legs and global warming. It's really funny. It's good. But it makes very serious, very good points. And it would be, you know, it's just very useful listening practice for students. So, I mean, the other...
That could also be used for the extra support for listening. Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, there's hundreds of them. I was wondering if we could sort of splice that into the exam and take out a bit, but because the visuals really do help, and some of the ideas are quite complex, it unfortunately wouldn't be appropriate. But Mike and I, and also Tom and somebody else, at some point it would be good to just have a get together about the test, well, specifically the listening test format, and see whether we want to kind of amend that part 3 and substitute it for something else, or take it out, because if you're writing the assessments, then you'll know it's really difficult to find a summary question where you haven't given away answers in the other part. It's just it's an exercise that's really difficult trying to
unless
find.
it's done on a different text, to give a short text for a summary.
Well, that's one thing we're considering, is having the three conversations,
like
and then
no
having having a 4th discussion, and having no questions, and they just have to note the key points that are made. Yeah. And we have it marked out of 10 for points noted and examples given or something. So it's quite straightforward. Yeah, so I thought what we could do is we'll try and record one and see how students do on it, and then, you know, before we start substituting anything.
That can be trialled in classes, can't it?
Yeah, so just do a discussion and then record it and see if they would need any structure to the notes, or if we want to just leave it as, kind of write their own notes and look at whether we want to actually...
That would be a really nice exercise. Just have a talk, get them to take notes, even if they do it through twice, and write their summary from the notes.
Yeah, but it needs to be, we don't want to make it anything longer. It just, make it quite short, but quite doable. But it was whether, because one of the learning descriptors for, one of the level descriptors for B2+ is that they should be able to make notes that are understandable by somebody else. So that would be a good way of testing that and saying, you know, the students that write the ones that write down one word, they're not useful. We're not, you know, that's not good note-taking skills. So, but, you know, key points made. so that we can understand what the point was.
Agree. I mean, when people listen to lectures, I mean, you often teach students that they need to create their own shorthand, and they're the ones that need to understand it.
Yes, but they need, but it needs to be intelligible, because presumably if they looked at it 6 months later, I mean, shorthand is one thing.
Yeah,
we
but
would be
for
able
a
to work
different person to understand, I'm sure nobody would understand my notes.
Well, maybe you should look at your note.
I can't read some of the students' neat handwriting. I'm not sure I can go on with notes.
Well, it's under revisement. It's not, what really we don't want to do is we create this bank of 9 exams that have all been externally approved, and we'll have effectively trialled them all, and then change the format so that they're no longer usable. We're not doing that, but I'm just talking about taking out that part and maybe substituting it with something else that they can make notes on if we decide that we're not able to assess note taking in any other way, and that it's useful to keep in.
That sounds like a nice exercise.
So, but I think we need to trial it and make sure that it's doable for students, and that it fits in with what we're teaching. So
I'm sure we'll get loads of volunteers to have a pre-prepared class for them.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we'll look at that. Okay, any other business? Anyone want to add anything? Any other comments? Any questions about things that are coming up at the moment? Is everyone okay with any assessments for everything?
Can I ask a non-AES related question?
Yes, go ahead.
Has anyone or everyone tried the workplace skills questionnaire that we're supposed to do with students?
Oh, the career ahead thing.
Career ahead.
Yeah, you need to speak to Vish about that.
Yeah. No, I'm
we have tried it in London ISC.
It scared the life out of me. I'm not suitable for any job. Maybe operating a hangman's noose.
No, I'm afraid I don't know. Does anyone else?
Do you know Vish Patel?
I know of him, the guy who's running it for us.
Yeah.
Everybody who is running it agrees that it's a very, I won't say what I was going to say, we're being recorded. Not a very useful questionnaire or set of results.
Not at all.
Yes, no, I think the same feeling it's the same feeling at Sussex, except apparently the agents have been very excited by it. And that's what I understand is the reason why it's there.
Talking about the sales agents.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
Students.
And I think it's a part. So I think it's a part that they're trying to sort of keep in, because that's sort of apparently very motivating for getting students on the course in terms of future careers and things. Even though your point that this, nobody particularly likes it.
I think, don't you need to have quite a substantial amount of training and knowledge of like what it all means? I wouldn't know how to. Do you get that? I presume I wouldn't know how to advise students what this big questionnaire thing means. Isn't that a whole job? Kind of.
I would have no
advisory.
idea how to approach that with students, because it just rips you apart basically.
So like psychology.
Well, Vish recommends a group work with students. They kind of discuss it in little groups, because he did a one-to-one with the students, and it didn't work at all.
I don't really know how. Yeah.
I was just interested in what people's thoughts were, and they're as negative as mine, so I'm happy with that.
Right. I've sort of queried why this has fallen into, it seems, to a large extent to be the responsibility of the AES or the heads of English people, which is not really our purview at all. Because my understanding was that it was geared towards being, subject specific, and that you would be, aiming to get a career in the subject you're studying, which I wouldn't be able to. I think
there are different views, that some people are wanting to keep it subject specific, and other people feel that there are soft skills that are, useful in whatever field people are in, and that's what it was supposed to be looking at. Plus, they're doing all the sort of technological side of, having their, CVs and all this sort of stuff done and their online profiles. But it's true, it's not going down that well with a lot of the students. And so, computer and engineering are doing their own projects with the university, so they're not doing those.
Okay. Anything else? I'm aware of the time. I don't want to. I'll be uploading another. No. Just no. For people who miss it, like Kieran, he listens to the whole thing. And he's like, "Thanks for that 40 minutes." Should attend then, mate. Cool. Any other comments? Elena, what was the big news from London?
Well, the big news was that we are moving. But we don't know yet where and when. We've been given an indication of what it could be and when, but an email will go out to Bellaby's, or probably has gone out already, so they wanted to warn us first.
Are you moving to the Northern Powerhouse? Is that what's happening?
You can move to Leicester with loads of space here.
It's Greenwich somewhere.
Ah, interesting. Cool. Okay, good luck with that. All right. Thanks very much, everybody. I'll upload this to the YouTube thing, and for the next one, I'll do another Padlet. So if anyone in the interim period of this 2 weeks has any thoughts of anything that they want to ask a question on or anything, just put it on there, and then this is basically the agenda. So anything or any useful stuff. I found loads of really good stuff when I was looking for Durham stuff on the University of Leicester site. There's absolutely loads of really useful study skills and grammar support and stuff. So anything that's useful, stick it on there or on Study Smart. That would be great. Cool. Bye. Lovely to speak to you. Have a good afternoon.
Bye.
All right, bye.
See you.
Bye.
Bye.
See you.